Greetings, Dr. Karen here, and I am here on another beautiful day. After horsey chores are done, I decided to sit down, put on a shirt, a nicer shirt, and hopefully talk to you about more things about horses. I'm really hoping that I can stir your heart and your soul about learning more about your horses and learning a lot more of the why of why things may be happening in your horse's life that you may not understand. So let's talk about things that might be really disturbing about horses. For example, metabolic things or ulcers or personality things where they're just really, they can be very, very difficult. Not understanding if they are or not in pain, which most of the time they are, because horses don't really give us a lot of trouble unless there's some other things going on for them. And I want to talk to you a lot about my passion about this idea of heel first and toe first heel strikes and toe strikes in hooves. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is that I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt that the industry that we have come to know about horses has really developed horses for striking the toe first and for holding them in that strike. Even in the natural world of trimming, it's rare that you actually see horses that have the proper angle for holding their bodies and the actually hoof capsule, that it's actually holding the coffin bone and navicular in the proper angle for the horse to actually be happy and develop and actually do well in day-to-day life. When we have a toe first strike, I believe from what I've understood about the history of how shoes came to being as far as industrialized shoes in the United States, but when horses became for our pleasure and for our competition, when you set them up in the toe first, they are faster and they are mightier, because when you have a toe first strike, they go into the sympathetic nervous system, which is the pain, flight, and fight nervous system. When that nervous system happens, horses and we become just about saving ourselves. It's a little different between predator and prey, but truthfully about saving ourselves and either running or fighting as fast as we can. Given the opportunity to run or to perform in the ways, jumping and all of the other things that we do with horses, they do it faster. They do it at the most efficient way, rather than being in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a more playful, other-oriented, rest and digest nervous system, where we heal and we grow relationships and where we remember things and we have a history of building one thing into the other. And that is also, there's a wonderful place of really interrelating with each other in that parasympathetic nervous system for us as well. This is where we build family and community and relationships and memories. We don't remember anything really when you're in the sympathetic nervous system, because it's only about survival in that minute. And as I talked about in the last video, everything in your body changes. Our bodies and their bodies change when we go transition from one nervous system to the other. And again, this is a template. We're learning a lot more about the vagal nerve and the different windows, if we want to say that, or doorways in between the different nervous systems. But for understanding the concept of this, let's just talk about that sympathetic nervous system really is about just coming inward and focusing on survival. The body switches brain function, switches blood supply, switches breathing, turns off digestion, turns off wound healing, turns off all kinds of things to turn on other things for however many moments are needed to either fight or flee. And when that survival moment comes about, everything changes and goes back into that parasympathetic nervous system, which is the resting and digesting and community and playfulness and relaxation, memory, all of those kinds of things happen in that nervous system. So I wanted to show you a few pictures today, and I'm hoping that you'll understand my passion about this, because I am convinced we have monsoons coming in. So that's what you're hearing. It's so awesome. As I'm sitting in the back part of our little ranch here, teeny little ranch, the thing that I am so passionate about, and that I believe is one of the things I am involved with animals, and I am really, really, really hoping that we can save the horses and the equines of the world, because I feel like they are very, very, very abused, and we don't often even notice how much we're abusing them and how much against their nature we are caring for them. And so one of the big places I believe I can make a difference in all of this is teaching all of you how to look at horses, your equines' hoof falls, footfalls, and start to notice and make the connection if there's a problem, that problem may have something to do with how we are keeping them in the sympathetic nervous system by keeping them hitting the ground toe first, and then usually they go heel and then back off into the toe. I want all horses, all equines that have hooves, right, to be able to use their hoof, the structures that go within their hoof capsule, in the way that their bodies are designed to by God. And we don't allow that. And there are probably 100 ways that I can teach you how to see that that is not happening properly. And let's start with a few of those in this video today. So one of the things that we have come to accept, or many of the things that we have come to accept as common, ordinary, and normal and natural, which are not in horses, is things that you will see in horse magazines everywhere, which are horses that are already in trouble. And let me show you this. So I can tell you, and I'm hoping that after you start to see this video, and I'll do some more on this too, that you'll start to see horses that are in trouble that seem to be, that we promote as happy, healthy horses. And you're going to start to be able to see, I hope, a horse that is already on the toe just by looking at their bodies. And so I'm going to show you a publication. They're all over the place. I haven't chosen anything particular. And if you open up this publication or any of them, you're going to see page after page after page of horses that are in trouble and that are toe first, and that their structure, their what we call conformation, which is a whole nother conversation. And conformation can be changed by switching neurology and changing the hoof capsule to actually house all of the structures within the hoof capsule, the coffin bone, the navicular, properly, and all of the things that work and function within that hoof capsule, not only the coffin bone and the navicular, but how that actually functions. And we don't actually know all of the things about that. We don't know how horses hear, through the earth like we do elephants, say. We have some information about that. There's so many things. And so when we put a shoe on a horse, we really have no idea how it's affecting that horse's health. And that's a whole nother conversation. But let's just talk about even horses that are barefoot. Almost always they are trimmed at the wrong angle for their bodies and to hit toe first, which for me is a travesty, because now they're barefoot and they can't even be functioning within the hoof capsule. Their bodies can't even be accessing their feet in any kinds of proper ways. So here's a publication with a horse that is front cover here, and I've covered up the publication, but again, you can choose any publication that you like, and you'll see horses that look like this. Now, this guy is front and center on this magazine, right? He's the show horse here. And I'm going to tell you, this horse is in trouble. And the next piece of that is that this horse, I can guarantee you, is hitting toe first. And I'm going to show you why. So things that we should not be seeing in our domesticated horses that have become normal and natural. So when you're going to look at the structure of how the body changes on a toe first horse that has been hitting this way for some little amount of time or for some long amount of time, is you're going to see this overdeveloped chest right here. And you can see how, even though this horse is standing straight up, how his shoulder should actually be much further back. And the reason we're seeing this way overdeveloped pectoralis muscle area and into this lower neck area is because as he's hitting toe first, and you can kind of start to see a little bit at the coronet band here, you'll see a little bit of bulging. This leg can't actually go back any further because of the way, the angle of which he's either shod or trimmed here. So he's hitting toe first, and what's happening is instead of using the muscle behind the shoulder to actually move the hoof out and hit heel first and then come through the breakover and come off the toe, he's hitting toe first. And so he's having to pick up his feet with these pectoralis muscles, or these chest muscles, and the lower part of the neck. You can see he's a little bit cresty here too. We see this in stallions. Maybe that's meant for him. On the other hand, a lot of times horses that do start to hit toe first, because they're in the sympathetic nervous system so often, sometimes you'll see them actually start to become metabolic. Other things that you can tell, he doesn't have a very soft eye, does he? Doesn't look like he's really super happy here. You can start to see he has a little bit of sway back here, and he has a little bit of a bigger belly. Now, again, this is the cover of this magazine, so this is what we are being taught, that this is how we want our horses to look. You don't want this, right? When they're settled in the heel more, the belly goes up, the top line becomes not, again, curved like this for whatever, whatever his breed is. He's probably a quarter horse. I don't really know. It doesn't matter, because you can see anatomically he should be higher here. There's a problem, right, in this. And if you look, his rear end is not very developed. So for how developed his front end is, his rear end really isn't matching that very much. And that's because they have to move when they're hitting toe first, in the fronts and the backs. They can't come underneath themselves properly, and they have to move from the stifle. So here in the front end, he's pulling the legs up from this area in the front and the neck, and he's moving from the stifle, again, why you have stifle issues. And this horse may, be in all kinds of training to continue to develop that rear end, which he really won't, because when you're in that sympathetic nervous system and continually hitting the toe first, the body is thinking that something is wrong, and there's no reason, right, to develop this rear end in a way that is going to really serve him. Because, again, and even when you look at his face, he's not, again, in a really super happy place. But those are some things that you can start to look at. Now, when we look at horses that are in the wild, and we could really argue about our horses in the wild, our horses that we see actually wild, doesn't really matter. Because horses that have the opportunity to be running free and trimming their own feet, which is what horses are designed to do, by the way, you can start to see that all of these horses, look at their backs, right? They look at how they're not overdeveloped in the neck here. They have big round rear ends. You can start to see that gluteal stripe or notch in the rear end, which you should see in all pretty much breeds of horses. And you can start to see that this is a pretty healthy group, right? That their legs and shoulders are moving really, really, really nicely. This is a book about horses on Sable Island. And then there's another incredible book here that is Wild Horses, and there's a lot of pictures in here. This one really struck me. Let's see here. There we are. This is an old mare who has, you can see, a leg injury at some moment in time, but look at her conformation. Look at how healthy she is for walking in this particular way. And that is because they wear their feet in the right ways. Let me see if I can show you another. Again, look at top lines and whatever in all of these horses, right? Because they have the opportunity to go up on the toe when they need to, but they walk and spend a lot of their time in that heel first area. So I'll show you another picture here. Here we go. More pictures there. And you can see these horses look very different than our domesticated horses. And we have that idea that all of the horses, in the United States at some moment were domesticated and let loose. So they've had the opportunity to be, here we go. Here's another photograph. If you look at this hoof right here, you can start to see how deep in the heel this horse is, and how the leg and the shoulder are back a lot further, and the angle of the fetlock is very, very different. Top line up, okay, teeny little belly, but still nice and developed in that rear end, right? We're seeing nice things. So why have we done this, and why do we continue to do it, and how do we fix it? One of the first things is to recognize it. So to go away and have a look at your horses and see if they're landing toe first. If they are, I want you to contemplate that they might be in a sympathetic nervous system, which is kind of a pain or fight or flight nervous system. And therefore, if they're having trouble with ulcers, or if they're having trouble with metabolic issues, or if they're having trouble with navicular, if they're having trouble with laminitis, if they're having trouble with their teeth, the body is all one composition, and these are things that, for whatever reason in our industry, again, this is like super radical, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, Karen, you're wrong about this. Dr. Karen, this is crazy. Why would you even say this? But that we know in humans, and we know in other places, that when you place too much stress and you place beings in a sympathetic nervous system for too long, for long periods of time, and not letting them cycle through that sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, all kinds of really bad things happen to them. And we're seeing this in our culture now, I'm sure, right? With a lot of people who are more and more deeply in our sympathetic fight or flight nervous systems. And it's no different for our horses. And of course, they're reacting to us too. And so if we're super stressed, then they're seeing that too. But that's a whole nother conversation. What we really want to be looking at is, does the hoof capsule on our horse actually fit the way we have crafted it, the way we have trimmed it, the way we have shod it? Is it actually supporting your horse's body and their movement? And I will tell you that if you put the heel on the right place on a horse at the right angle for them, most of the time, if they're given enough movement, their hooves will break off and trim themselves properly, self-trim. Often, the horses in the wild don't get farriers, and I believe that there are some really good farriers out there. However, a lot of the things that we're doing to the feet are really a travesty, and we are really making horses sicker and sicker and sicker by all of the things that we think we need to do to their hooves to try to make them more comfortable. And in fact, usually we're making them sicker and sicker and sicker. So what have I had happen in my experience with the types of trimming that God gave me to teach? It's very vastly different than most of the other, of any of the other farrier work that I've done, that I've seen. Let me say it that way, that I've seen. So a lot of times you don't have to trim all 4 feet. Sometimes you can only trim, and often only trim 1 foot, and allow the horse's neurology to take over and really deeply start to work within them and shift. It's an immediate thing. Neurology is immediate. That shift from sympathetic into parasympathetic, you may not get the shift of all of the problems right away if those have been ongoing, but that shift into that healing nervous system happens immediately if you get it right. And that's the cool thing about neurology, and one of the things that I just love and adore about neurology, and what keeps me showing up every day for this wondrous adventure of how God made us and how amazing we actually are. So the takeaway today is, look at your horse and see what might be the problems. And instead of looking at those as pieces, which they may be and maybe need to be addressed that way. I would like for you to start to look at their feet and know that their feet are a much bigger story than we actually tell, and how the horse actually, how the hoof and the ground interact with each other, and how that hoof expands and contracts, and how the hoof capsule actually encapsulates how the coffin bone and the navicular and the rest of the bones actually move, and the information that it sends up the leg into the nervous system. I'd love for you to just start to look, and know that there are answers to allow your horse to become rewilded again, or if we want to say, allowing your horse to really become who they are. And I'm praying that as this goes out into the universe, that more and more horses become saved from going to slaughter, or saved from being passed around, saved from being misunderstood by something that we are doing and have been doing to distort them so badly. And still they try for us, in shoes and in crafted feet, trimmed, that if we were experiencing the same thing, we would be losing our minds, I can assure you, because when I set people up to even partway experience what their horses are probably experiencing, it's horrible. It's horrible. So prayers for all the horses and all the equines, and prayers for all of you, and a deep, deep, deep thank you that you've listened to me, and that you're sharing my journey of hoping to save horses and be just in so much honor of what they have always given us through every day of their lives, and even when they're in trouble, what they're trying to give us. Alrighty, many blessings. Thank you. Till next time. Bye now.